a bit of a personal motto of mine is say yes to the scenic route. And I think a lot of people think a similar way, but when I look at it, when I think about it, the scenic route is just taking a more interesting way through life. That's the scenic route, because if we do the same things day in, day out, if we go onto autopilot, if we always take the same route home, if we always do the same things when we get home, or the same things at the weekend, whatever it is, time flies by and suddenly it's 10 years, 20 years later. Now, the other day, it was my wife and myself's 25th wedding anniversary. I can't believe it, 25, but I suppose I've retired early. I may as well have a silver anniversary as well. And about, I would say, 10 years ago, maybe a bit longer, just before I started getting into coaching, but I did start noticing this, and that was that a lot of our friends who were maybe slightly older than us, just a little bit slightly older than us, they were breaking up. They might have been married, they had kids and what have you, but they were starting to separate. And I thought about it and I thought, is that where we're heading? And then I realised that sometimes, certainly from my perspective, what was happening was that they had grown apart. They were a couple, but then 20 years later on, the kids are leaving home and they no longer have anything in common. They might even have different social circles and what have you. And I didn't want that to happen to myself and my wife Sharon. And so we started doing little things, taking the scenic route. And it could be anything. There's a few things, and again, one of the reasons I say yes to the scenic route is because we ended up, as a few years into this idea, we ended up at Yestival, which is a big thing put on by Dave Conthwaite and his wife Emma and a few other people, and it's from the Say Yes More movement, as in saying yes to doing different things. And we went to that and we've seen a guy chatting or talking, Alistair Humphreys, and he went and spoke about micro adventures. And this really resonated with us. This really resonated with the idea of say yes to the scenic route. So that's where the say yes comes from. The scenic route, micro adventures, all fits in with that. And we really liked this. And when we came home, we started going, well, what's the smallest things we can do? What are the little things? At one point, one of the suggestions that we had, and we actually did, was even going to a different supermarket each week to do the weekly shopping, you know? Because you might go, oh yeah, we know your life's full of rock and roll, you're going to a different supermarket. But think about it. What we were actually doing was going to a different place, or taking a different route. Sometimes the other side of the city, sometimes the other side of the country. Remember, Scotland's not that big. But we would have all the different things there. We would be going to lunch somewhere different. We would see different things. Even sitting in the car, driving, there would be more conversation because we would be seeing different things. It'd be stimulating our thoughts, our brains, the things we see. It'd be stimulating different thoughts and ideas. And that helped an awful lot. And it was something that we could fit in to a busy work life, busy work schedule, bringing up our son, all these kind of things that would get in the way. And it was a bit of daftness, it was a bit of fun, and that was it. And I've said this one to people before about, oh yeah, we used to try and find a different supermarket each week. And people really have gone, oh yeah, you know how to live. And they thought I'd been daft, because it does sound a bit, really? That's as exciting as you can get? But the point is, these little things, these little changes to our route, switch off autopilot, switch off the sameness, the habits, the mundane things that we allow our lives to become. They look at things differently, and that's become important to us. So I think especially now that I have retired early, and setting up business and blah 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 and all the things we spoke about before, it's very easy with age to set up routines and what have you and get into them. I know personally, because of the way that I I'd been off for a little while before I actually left, and so I had started to get into routines, and like I said in the previous video about procrastination, that became a bit of a habit more than it had been before, and so it's difficult to get out of that, and so I'm forcing myself to do it. And so with age, it can feel comfortable to have these routines, but equally breaking out of that comfort zone. And comfort zones are a strange idea because they're not always comfortable, but breaking out of them can be a little bit difficult to get your head around to start with. They can feel painful doing different things. It can cause stress, but it's worth doing it a little bit at a time, another step at a time. Another saying from Alistair Humphrey about one of his books is called The Doorstep Mile, because the longest mile is just getting over the doorstep. And I think with age, it really helps to have a look at those routines and those habits we have and consider doing something a bit different. I think it's really important. Autopilot is an absolute killer for us. We don't want to do that, especially when you're retiring, you're in your 50s, maybe 60s or something like that. I'll be blunt, you've got fewer years left than you have got, than you've already done, so you don't want to waste it just on autopilot. So what are a few of the practical tips I could suggest for breaking these patterns? Well, as I always say, one of the first things is being aware and recognising where they are. You might want to keep a bit of a journal of what you're doing each day so that you start to recognise it. It doesn't need to go into detail, as detailed as you want. Journaling's a great thing. Anybody that's worked with me knows that I am a great believer in various forms of journaling. But it's good because it allows you to identify what's actually happening. It's not just you thinking, oh, what do? Well, I go to the shops, well, I go to here and I go to there, and then we go there on a Friday or anything like that. Writing it down and seeing the patterns, and then maybe deciding what you're happy with, what could maybe change slightly, where have you got the time, where have you got the space to do things. So get that, and then start building it around exactly that. When do you have the space to make that change? Can you put the change into something you already do? Like visiting different shops or different branches of the same shop to get your shopping done. These things can really, really help, and it's not too much to actually do. Setting yourself some challenges, small challenges, and looking at things like micro adventures. Now, we can all get out and we can all do visits to stately homes or get out in the woods or nature and what have you. And I say we can all do it, but quite often we don't bother. It's like one of those things we don't do the tourist thing when we're at home. But why not? Why not every so often go out and see different things? Why not go to a gallery, I know we're kind of spoiled. I'm certainly spoiled coming from Glasgow because we have some fantastic places. A lot of the time, free entry as well. But it's a good few years since I last went into, say, the art galleries in Kelvin Grove, and yet they're fantastic. Which means I'm probably going to do that soon, just to prove a point. But we can get into the habit of thinking we've been somewhere recently, but we've not actually. So it's definitely worth even thinking, looking at where you live a bit like a tourist would. What's the interesting things? What can you actually take on? And when you start looking at taking the scenic route, or saying yes to the scenic route, if you like, the neural pathways, the things that really reinforce our habits, they start regrowing. You start seeing different things. It's said that when we take on different challenges, that the neural pathways grow. And that can actually be really healthy for your brain, because the brain doesn't just sit and rot when we get older. That's a myth. That's from decades ago when people would retire, get the gold watch and sit and waste away and probably pass away within about 5 to 10 years. That doesn't have to be. And in a lot of the time, it's not just physical health that we need to look after, we've got to look after mental health as well. Doing something like saying yes to the scenic route or embracing different things you know, even one little thing each day and doing it differently, switching off the autopilot, that's fantastic for the brain. It keeps you aware, it keeps you thinking, it keeps your brain fresh. And if you like, it's a workout for the brain. So that's a really good thing. That cannot be a bad thing. And that's, I think, one of the reasons why I really enjoy it. You know, if you like, I'm learning more and I'm starting to really enjoy doing that. I'm doing different things, I'm discovering different things. Even things where at one point I thought I knew what I liked doing, and it's not that I don't like doing it, it's just my take on it these days has changed and I'm doing slightly different versions of what it was. It's like, for instance, I used to play in bands and I still like playing music, but what it really was, and one of the things I've realised, is that I like to create and I like to share creating things. But that has changed into doing things like this and sharing information about well-being and creating videos about well-being, and that's something that I really enjoy doing. And it's not that I don't like playing music anymore, but ultimately what I've always enjoyed is creating things to share with people. And that's kind of what I'm doing now, so that's something fresh. I'm learning about how you create videos. I'm not saying I'm good at it yet, but it's fun learning. That's the great thing. So to finish off, if you think about saying yes to the Scenic group, it's kind of like a mindset. I don't know if you'll have heard of it, but you've got your fixed mindset and your growth mindset. A good book by Carol Dweck about this as well. And we can change it, and it's not just an A-B, it's not just an on-off. It's not just that we've got one way of looking at the world, or we look at everything with open eyes. It varies, and it can vary on the subject as well. Some things might suit you to have quite a fixed mindset on, you know, maybe parts of work, it might suit doing that, whilst other parts of your life it would be better to have a growth mindset. Having that Scenic route, embracing the Scenic route, helps that mindset. And when you do that, you find yourself more positive, you find yourself with more energy and confidence to take on new things. And at the end of the day, that can only be a good thing. And that's why I say, and still to this day, and will forevermore say yes to the Scenic route. Thanks very much, and I'll see you next week. Bye.